Welcome, everyone, to the Cyber Physics Podcast, where we unravel the complex web of cybersecurity through the lens of its foundational principles. I'm your host, and today, we embark on an intellectual journey that mirrors the intricacy of physics itself. Joining us are two remarkable experts, Ranghan Venkatraman and Bob Tuner, as we delve into cyber physics in essence.
Very good to meet you, Bob. Just by the way of quick introduction on our end, I'm Ranghan Venkatraman. I run three companies: Resilience, Pinnacle, and Curious. Resilience focuses on AI, Pinnacle focuses on cybersecurity, and Curious focuses on education. We love cybersecurity. We love it because the challenges continue to proliferate, just like what you've mentioned. And it's a game that is not for the faint-hearted, for sure. And what I wanted to perhaps maybe start with, since you said you had sort of done a lot of work in education in universities, what do you see as the opportunity in universities and education, specifically to cybersecurity? Because I see them from the outside. We don't work with a lot of universities at the moment, so I would like to actually understand whether universities and schools are laggards, or are they all the way up to innovators in cybersecurity? Because I would think that it's extremely important for them, but my perception is that they're probably underutilized from the cyberspace.
Yeah, so the university's missions are usually teaching and learning. Obviously, that's the reason why they're there. But also research is a strong component. And then, of course, most universities have some sort of an outreach type, program or set of programs that they call outreach. And that's their business. The university that I was working at was basically a $4.5 billion a year business with a significant amount of that revenue coming from research. Now, when you take research, it's the broadest spectrum, everything from healthcare to, mathematical research to, finding out what's going on with the oceans. There's all kinds of stuff that's out there, but that is usually funded by somebody. Normally, there's a lot of government funding involved there, but there's a lot of private sector funding. So, in the university environment, that's really what they do, and it's really I'm going to give the university away here, but it's the continual sifting and winnowing to figure out what the real truth is. So research can be lucrative for a university, or it can be, just simply groundbreaking. Cures for cancer, cures for all kinds of other medical things. Strength of metals in an engineering course. Some of their research they're going to try to figure out. And they did figure out that titanium was the perfect metal for the space shuttle. Go figure. A lot of that research that is done is just simply to answer questions. And that's the great part about the university environment. However, from a business perspective, what they're doing is they're creating patentable product out of that. So copyrights, patents, all of those legal ways to prevent that intellectual capital from being misused or being siphoned off and somebody else makes a profit. That's what the university is built on. And then, of course, the teaching, students are eager to learn, and, kind of lately, education's been under attack. That personal opinion is that some of it is part of that continual sifting and winnowing in search of the truth. And I like to take it from the university should be trying to stretch the boundaries of what good conversation is, what good understanding is, but they need to have that strength in math and science, and they need to have the strength in things like cybersecurity. Kind of to tie it all back to that is there's a lot of schools now that are teaching that foundational level, apprentice and journeyman level understanding of cybersecurity. But they're also pressing the boundaries of cybersecurity research. What is the artificial intelligence world going to do to cybersecurity threat analysis? What is it going to do to predicting threats and improving resilience? those are great research projects that can be spread across the academic world as well as the companies that are trying to monetize all of that. I do know that in the world of cybersecurity research, it's everything from incorporating AI to trying to figure out the communications vaults that are actually subsurface should the tides continue to rise, right? If the ocean rises and floods out all those comm vaults, what have we done to the infrastructure that is, the internet and our nation's backbone? How are we going to prepare and preserve those environments? And where do we move them to? How do we know in 10 years what's going to be underwater or high and dry without any sort of services like the ability to sustain a business? That's the university world, and I love being part of that because there is always something new to learn. There's always just in the daily conversation you have with the academic community and the research community, it's just amazing the things you learn. And I've always had that quest to find out, what's on the other side of that door.
Absolutely. Related to that, there is a question that I have around universities' own cybersecurity posture. Do you see that, this in broader terms, not particular to any university, but what is your opinion about the adoption? So if you take financial services, generally cybersecurity is usually at the forefront. They tend to be more leaders, not necessarily laggards. But where do you see, universities?
Yeah, I think you have the broad spectrum. So at the universities that are that, like I mentioned, the $4.5 billion a year business, they have the resources available to have effective and great cybersecurity. Probably not the same as a company that is a for-profit company and they're trying to preserve that bottom line. But it also has a scale that goes down to the local community college, which just doesn't have the resources. Usually, cybersecurity is part of some IT staff's full-time equivalency. So, if you have a university of 10,000 students, that's 10,000 students paying X amount of dollars, there's your revenue stream. And if they're not doing a whole lot of research, maybe that's the only stream you have. Well, what are you going to pay to protect that revenue stream? That's the question that a lot of these smaller universities are not able to see is the impact. So if they have a ransomware event, their entire network is owned by, pick your favorite ransomware variant there, they're going to be off air. They're not going to be able to do the teaching. They're not going to be able to have the students recording what they are learning. They're not going to have that core capability, which is the network. Education is certainly a network-driven business nowadays. Some universities are that's it. They're online. Their campus is a bunch of offices inside of a building in the middle of a large city somewhere, and that's it. They don't necessarily have a campus, but all of those students have to connect, and all of those students have to connect to systems that need to be available. So I would say that availability is probably that primary characteristic that a university needs to be focused on is what controls do I need to put in place to make sure that the network, the data, the research information is available when needed. That can't be done on a quarter of an FTE. You just can't do that. You have to have a team of people that are thinking about that. And sometimes it's really hard to make the value judgment between should I be focusing on security today or just delivering the IT service. If the problem with the IT service is there's not enough capacity, that's not necessarily a cyber problem. That's a network problem or it's a technology problem. But it could become a cyber problem if the reason why that they don't have the volume and the availability is because of a cyber attack.
Absolutely, and that is an important question because even in the world that we live in, over the last say 3 to 4 months, we've seen a much heightened activity in ransomware activity. The actual number of threats, the number of alerts have gone skyrocketing.
Right.
So you end up seeing more noise than you see signal at this particular point. The activity is just, barraged. And to your point, if you have a 0.25 FT looking at security, it's you might as well not even do anything about it and just, hope and pray and, let luck decide whether you're going to be a target or not.
Your average week.
So the question really is
that quarter FTE in your average week turns out to be, less than 10 hours total. And that's if that person is able to carve out that quarter FTE for that week. And it kind of goes week by week. How much time can they devote to security this week if they have a major rollout of a new cloud SaaS opportunity or SaaS system? If
this is also compounded, interestingly, this is also compounded by the fact that you have universities that have a medical division,
yes.
Or a hospital to go with it, because you're now dealing with HIPAA and you're dealing with other data privacy related issues as well.
Yeah.
And not sure how that compound effect plays into investments in cybersecurity.
I have seen it pay off actually pretty good, because if that's the lifeblood of the university is that medical education, chances are there's a lot of medical research associated with that. And then there's also a relationship between the university and a hospital organization, because you have that firewall between the clinical practice and the research practice. That has to be maintained. You really can't poke holes in that firewall very much. So you have to have systems that are going to help you manage and control that, and pull out healthcare and put in engineering. If there's a relationship you have with a major engineering company, pick one out of the air, Rockwell Engineering, Rockwell Automation. I mean, they're doing an awful lot of really groundbreaking research in university settings that could be beneficial to that company. If that company were running the research budget and they were weighing the cost of security, they're going to go on revenue. And anything that impacts revenue generation is not going to be good. And if that revenue generation is research projects that they are paying the university to do, then they want that research money to go to the university that's going to protect it. And then it becomes a university problem. And that's why a lot of the larger research universities do have a lot of investment in cybersecurity, especially to make sure that research engine continues to move and continues to produce.
Interesting. In terms of your vCISO responsibilities, how has it been coming so far in terms of your approach to it? Just given the fact that you've been CISO in residence in different companies before, how do you see your CISO role? And are you fractional? Are you full time? How does it work in your world?
Yeah, so we're providing virtual CISOs, and we are still early in our lifetime, so we don't have a lot of numbers to post up here. But the idea is that that virtual CISO is filling a need inside of and we're looking at the SMB market, small, mid-sized business market, mainly because they're the ones that can't afford a full-time CISO, or they can't afford a full-time security team, and they just need somebody to help them with strategy. So an engagement might be that they employ a virtual CISO for a quarter or 2 quarters to develop that strategy, develop policies to go around it, and then turn it over to their IT team if they have a full-time IT team. So that could be a lot of good work that happens in a very short period of time for a CISO. And frankly, a lot of the virtual CISOs, they're in it for that type of experience, which is good. Good for us because we get to, have that energy and that intellect to apply to a client's problems. Good for the client because, when they're working through a service, then they know they're going to get a CISO. And if that CISO, for whatever reason is not a good match, there's going to be others that can be assigned to it. And that's one of the things that a lot of the companies out there providing the virtual services are able to do, but it happens to be core to our work. We want to make sure that the CISO that is provided to the client is the right one for the task. So vetting those CISOs up front, understanding what their strengths are, what their challenges are. If you take the 11 to 15 major components of cybersecurity, you have to think about it as how are we performing all of those functions as part of an engagement? Are we doing everything, or do they just have us there for the strategy piece, or just have us there for the operations piece, or maybe just have us there for providing a security awareness capability and managing that program? You build it in a quarter, and then it runs by itself after that. But sometimes it takes that the CISO experience. So to answer the question of fractional, it is based on what the customer need is, what the clients want. The relationship, however, can become one of those ongoing relationships where maybe they can figure the company figures that they can support 50% of a CISO's salary for a period of time. Then they engage the virtual CISO, and that's what the virtual CISO is doing, which means that person could also be working for a totally different company, different ethos, different market for the other 50% of their time. So fractional, going into it saying we're only going to provide a half, a quarter, or whatever, I think that it's kind of disingenuous. What we're trying to do is provide the talent that the company needs when they need it.
Interesting. What key problems do you see in your role as an advisor, a CISO advisor? Maybe the top three that you're seeing currently, as sort of an abstract problem in the space.
So I think the world of CISO liability these days is really important to understand. Some sort of if they're functioning as a company officer, you have that director D&O type insurance. If you're just functioning as an advisor, then some sort of errors and omissions type insurance would be on the call. Sort of the same thing, but there's a distinct difference between the two. But it's also what are the company's problems? I mean, is it something that is within the virtual CISO's set of talents to address? So having that conversation up front and providing the quality is going to solve the problems, that's the important thing. What we like to do at the Cyber Hero Virtual CISO Network is we want to have that conversation. We want to figure out where the issues are, and then take our CISO and make sure that we've matched the right CISO to be able to address those.
No, absolutely.
As we get rolling, we're working on how to fine tune that vetting process so that we do put the right person with the right client.
Absolutely. And do you support customers across the United States, Canada, across the globe, or do you sort of limit the geography?
I think our geography is currently limited to the U.S., but that doesn't mean that as we grow and evolve that we Canada's a quick move, but also Latin American countries would be a good move. And then, if this turns into a global company, that would be fun. But well, we have to be able to do the work, and we have to be able to have the talent that can do it. And right now, that talent is U.S. based and understands U.S. rules and the rules of the different states, New York, California, et cetera. And that's our strength area right now.
Excellent. So in terms of, based on your experience, what would be the top three things you would perhaps advise an audience in terms, our audience is usually enterprises or someone who works for an enterprise, in terms of what to look for in 2024 from a cybersecurity perspective?
Yeah, I would say, a couple of things to think about is the impact of artificial intelligence. I mean, this is the year that AI becomes really mature, really fast. And the things that I would advise them to look at is, don't think of it as a buzzword. If it's not going to be enabling your business to do better, then you need to approach it cautiously. I think you need to approach it cautiously in almost every circumstance, because you want to make sure that you're getting the right tool to make your business thrive. But you also have to understand the impact of AI. So if you've ever used a modern SIEM, security incident and event manager, and you use modern endpoint detection and response, you're actually using AI right now. The question is, what is the rest of the business doing in the artificial intelligence world? Are they actually doing development using AI processes, AI algorithms, AI principles? And is it true AI, or is it sort of a variant? We've just automated one part of the process and we're calling it artificial intelligence. That could be, there's a lot of great courses out there being taught at the university level about understanding AI. So, if that's part of your problem or part of your threat surface, I would say, then I would look to make sure that you had the right people and they understood what they were doing there. But don't be afraid of it. Be careful and cautious as you would any other technological evolution. When the next generation firewalls came out and people were getting out of the stateful inspection firewall, a lot of them had to go back and relearn, because firewalls now are a whole lot different than they were back in 2001. And when you're looking at the next generation of firewalls beyond that are AI driven, they're using machine learning in order to understand the components in the network, and they're heuristically evolving, then that is a good thing. But you also have to understand that, it's just copper and silicon. It's not really super intelligent in there, because people have to program that and people have to understand how it's useful. And that's kind of an oversimplification, but the world of AI is still evolving rapidly. So to take capabilities of AI, and it's more than just large language processors. It's more than just trying to do something as simple as fill out a resume and make sure it can be seen by the applicant tracking systems that are using AI as part of their engine, all the way up to how fast and how far are you going to drive that research. If AI is an enabler at the university level, then AI should be an enabler at any level where it is employed in business and industry.
Sounds really good. So I think we're sort of hitting the top of the hour. So thank you so much, Bob, for your insights. We look forward to more opportunities to collaborating with you. So just wanted to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity, and anytime.
Thank you so much. Talk to you then. Bye.
As we wrap up this enlightening episode of the Cyber Physics Podcast, we want to express our deep appreciation to our insightful guests, Ranghan Venkatraman and Bob Tuner, for sharing their wisdom with us today. Cyber physics, in essence, has indeed brought us closer to understanding the intricate forces that govern our digital world. We hope you've gained valuable insights and inspiration to navigate the ever-evolving landscape of cybersecurity. Stay connected, stay informed, and remember, the essence of cyber physics is ever present in our connected reality. Until next time, keep exploring and seeking the equilibrium between innovation and safeguarding. Thank you for joining us on this captivating journey.